Good morning. Good morning. We have a group presentation today. And then next week, who would like to go Tuesday? Next Tuesday, it's gonna be there. All right, maybe we'll do the wrap up for everyone on Tuesday. Maybe the group in the back is on Thursday. The group that's not here. Okay, so, hey, you all can come up here now and start the presentation. Hey, if you wanna get fancy.
Use this. Is it working? I like this.
HDMI. Do you have HDMI port on the laptop or a secondary USB-C port? Try that second. On your laptop, the other USB.
Good morning. As you know, we have superintendents, Carson, Melissa, and Jeremiah. Little just, brief history again. Family owned diner, opened in 1985 in River Forest, one location, unfortunately. Mission to offer flavorful food at favorable prices at Forest Park in the surrounding area. Just a brief little SWOT analysis on little strengths, good food at a good location, wide variety at great prices. Weaknesses, very little market. That's a big weakness we have. Opportunities they can take advantage of is social media pages, menu expansion / refresh, and partnership with Uber and DoorDash. Threats, competitors with better marketing, competitors in the surrounding area.
programs wish to get awards for free food and then their real So, controls and monitoring is important. Here are some examples of from each area. So for product, customer feedback is important, like surveys and online reviews. Quality checks on ingredients and final dishes consistently, like either every other month or every monthly. Price, competitor price checking to stay competitive. Sales reports to track pricing and the impact on revenue. For place, we have delivery and order data from platforms like DoorDash. And then maintenance logs to keep the location clean and running. For promotion, we have social media engagement, like comments, likes, and shares. And then monitor online reputation through Google and Yelp reviews.
Okay, so our total monthly budget, for marketing content, so that would include like paying content creators to promote on TikTok or Instagram, we set aside $300 to $500 a month. Social media ads, we spend $200 to $400, that include like pop-up ads on TikTok, Facebook, that kind of thing. It costs $100 to set up our loyalty program, so get the app going, get that put out. $50 to $100 for the signage promotion materials, so updating our storefront and curb appeal with new signs. $100 to update our menu, so retaking pictures, kind of making it look more visually appeasing when you walk in the restaurant. And then $50 to $100 again for monitoring tools, so people to look at our engagement on social media or like setting out surveys. So all in all, it's about $1,000 or $800 to $1,200 a month. It's probably going to be a little more towards the $1,200 side in our first months to kind of speed up the process. And once we get ourselves established, we can start spending a little less money and saving towards the store. And that is all.
Thank you.
Hey, great job. All right, just kind of continuing on, maybe we'll do a lecture about for another, might get out of here real quick. All right, continuing on, we talked last class about the promotion mix, advertising, different ways we can advertise, different strategies. We gotta have a process, it needs to fit the budget constraints. We develop and refine a strategy. Even after you implement it and execute it, then you get to go back, evaluate, assess how successful was your strategy, your campaign, and you can amend things from there moving forward, right? Today we'll kind of talk more a little bit about the metrics of advertising and public relations. We'll probably leave personal selling, sales promotion also for next Tuesday because it's kind of a long chapter, but quite a bit of discussion. Alright, so yeah, we talked about informative, right? Persuasive advertising, comparative, reminder, push-pull strategy, different approaches to budget, by sales, all you can afford, return on investment, competitive parity, objective defense. Then we talked about the message components, purpose, and examples of that. Alright? We say, hey, we can execute the advertising program using some sort of pre-testing. Right, let's say we have an idea for a campaign, we now have potentially a budget, right? We've gone past that phase. Now we can pre-test. So before we launch this campaign, we can kind of get some information, expectations, some assumptions, how things will go, right? Some ways that we can do pre-testing is we can use a portfolio test, right? sample the target market, so we get our target market could be individuals 18 to 35 years of age, with this amount of social economic status, this location, et cetera, but we can take a smaller snippet of that, sample size, and we can show them different versions of an ad and then ask to recall the details. So let's say we come up with a commercial. We have a commercial, but we got different variations of the commercial. We got the one we expect to launch, and then we say, hey, you know what, let's come up with about 3, 4 different scenarios with the same kind of ad, right? Kind of using similar content. Because we don't want to show them blushing. We don't want to show them the final product. We want to show them something with similar likeness, right? We expose them to that, and we say, hey, what are your thoughts? What did you notice in this ad? What kind of emotions? What was the narrative? What was the theme? Did it entice you to buy anything? Does it make you thirsty? Does it make you hungry? Does it make you want something? Right? We can pre-test with the portfolio. Or ask them to recall the details. Tell me, what did you see? Is there anything out there that you noticed, right? What's your recollection of these versions of an ad? Next, we have a jury test, right? Once again, sample the target market audience and discuss advertising most likely to induce a purchase, right? So we can show them various ads. We might even show them our real final product, which we hope to push out. And then we ask them, out of all these ads, which is most likely to help you make a purchase? Which one makes you induce you to want to buy something? Theater test. So we put out the final ad out there, right? We put you in a room with a big screen and you watch it, and then we get your viewpoints. Kind of like a movie review. Hey, tell me what you think about the final product, right? So we can have expectations and assumptions already planned. We're like, hey, we tested it. A lot of people don't like this, so we kind of expect people to have negative feedback about this. We found a lot of people do tend to like this part. We think it will work. It will increase sales or exposure to some degree, but at least we're not going to be blindsided. Right? We're not going to be blindsided with information. Right? Beyond that, okay, campaign is out, either successful or it failed, right? And now we're all called back in as marketers and the management team, and we're asked to evaluate, right? Some post testing, right? So we want to know, hey, what happened after it's been launched? How effective was it? Right, wow, it was really effective. How do you know that? Let's just get a bunch of people together, focus groups some time, ask some questions. We have data recall, right? We can ask you to kind of recall the cues of the message. So maybe we won't show you the actual ad again, right? We may come in and just ask you some random questions about an ad that we've seen. We know you've actually seen, right? We don't have to show you it right then because you don't recall all of that. We can ask you about the Coca-Cola ad that was out a month ago, right? Hey, what do you remember? Right? So we can see how effective it was in your mind. Unaided recall. We can just ask open-ended questions, right? Things we actually want to know, but open-ended, right? What are your thoughts about this? You get a very open-ended answer, right? We go either way. From there, we put together themes and narratives. Right? These many people kind of talk about these points. These many people talk about those points. Attitude test, right? Compare advertisement with competing. Right? Apple comes out with a new phone. Samsung comes out with one. Been out for 3 months, and let's just say Apple wants to compare how people think, just specifically versus Samsung. Right? Not everybody else. We want to know how you feel about us versus Samsung. Inquiry, right? Your campaign runs 2 or more ads that are similar in content, and participants discuss recall and effectiveness, kind of like we did at pre-testing. And then sales test, measure the actual discussion question. Hey, how can the information that's been gathered from post-testing options be used? Which do you think is the most reliable? Right, and now you're post-testing. So how do you think this information, what do you think we could do with this information specifically? Right, how do you think, it changes things? And also more importantly, out of all of these, which one do you think is sort of the most reliable? Right? Right, hey, we could do all of these, but maybe we don't want to do all of these. It's still expensive to test. We talk about focus groups, getting people together, giving them some incentive, $100, you're gonna talk about something. Right? Theater, you get a bunch of people, and it costs money, right? You're gonna give them some money for showing up, et cetera, et cetera. So you may just wanna choose one. Right? So out of all these, which one do you think is the most effective, and why? Why would it be the most effective? What sort of benefits did you gain from one versus the other? Give me a few minutes to talk about that with your groups. Okay, what do you think?
We said that it kind of depends on like your business, for which one would be best. Like you said that an attitude test would be really good if you have a product that's like easily replicatable. Like if you're making like a pencil, there's not really much you can differentiate with a pencil. So just having the ability to see people's attitude, like for your pencil, then your pencil is the exact same, just like different brand. It can help you find something that you could like potentially differentiate. But if you're like a small brand that does something unique, having an attitude test really makes sense. So we said that it just like depends on what you're doing.
If it's a mass marketed product, it's a general product, attitude tests work well, if it's not something more specialized, attitude tests probably won't work as well, basically. Any other thoughts over here?
Going off like our business,
Mhm.
I think the test and sales test would be faster. Like just getting like the running to or more ads to see if like you can get more customers for our food. And then I think the sales test during those ads to see if you can like pop up.
Okay. Like, hey, sales test, is it, they want money or is it? Especially for like a restaurant. Over here.
Kind of going off of that, we think the sales test would just be like the most concrete answer. Like it will, like, you're gonna see if it works or not. It's kind of like a final, like it's kind of like everything before that can kind of be more of a comparison of how you're gonna shape your marketing. But like once you get to the sales test, it's like the real deal. Like did our promotion work or did it not? And how to adjust from there.
Okay. You're like, hey, sales test is cheap. Right? Probably don't have to spend any money. Maybe some challenges with that, you're like, hey, I don't know, this campaign was for a specific product, for a specific time, a particular promotion, but I don't know if it changes brand awareness. I don't know if people will notice us even more as a company or a brand, or if we're gonna retain people as lifetime customers. Be like, hey, just for that specific reason of putting out that campaign, it was successful, right? We can see this, sales like that. In the back.
We also wanted the sales guys to make sure, like, you know, see if the people actually like it. That was in the tour effect, because like, you get to see like if your ad actually competes with others, like if some of the product, you can see if like your product stands out, or if it doesn't, and like all of a sudden fix what you need to do to make yours stand out more.
Yeah, so inquiry test, right? Like, hey, you know what, they might say, hey, out of all the stuff out there, I think that, you guys are doing it the best, right? Well, that's actually gives us a lot of, information about how customers feel, not just about like this campaign, about, us overall in our marketplace, right? Because we're like a sports team, we're in a league or division, and we would like to know if we're the best in that division or league or something to that degree, you know? Well, there's nobody else in that group here. Okay. All right, KPIs, right? You always hear about KPIs in business altogether. People wanna know key performance indicators, right? Hey, what are the main things that we need to know? Metrics, right? What are the main metrics to know how things are working? Wanna keep it simple, right? Simple metrics. One is, so KPIs is always about meeting goals and objectives, right? So one is brand recognition, the ability of the audience to recognize and identify the brand. So we will have key performance indicators of brand recognition. Next, brand awareness. Can people recall? Yeah, they know that they recognize and identify, you're like, hey, I know that Nike exists, but then you're like, hey, can you recall anything about a Nike commercial you've seen in the past 6 months, like now, right? Because that's the difference, right? Hey, you know it exists, but can you recall anything, right? Recall anything is more effective, right? So brand awareness is recalling information about the brand. Impressions or ad views. How many people view ads? How many times a specific advertisement appears in a chosen medium? Chosen medium, TV, radio, any other medium that you could think of. So we say, hey, a formula used to measure impressions, because we always hear about ad impressions, ad views, is the rating. And then we say ratings, so think of TV ratings, right? Nielsen is a big organization that does television ratings, like the Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl and the Oscars are in the top 2 most watched things for all of television, right? Programs, all of television. We say, hey, the rating, what is your target market? So we say 18 to 35-year-olds. You say, hey, what is the total number of actual televisions in the marketplace? What's the total number of people who have a television and watch this program, the Super Bowl or the Oscars? Right? Now, those who watched it, what is the slither of the percentage of people who are your target market and watched it? So that's a lot of good information. Say, hey, out of X amount of households with televisions, these many households with televisions tune into the Super Bowl or Academy Awards. And of those people, these many were the people that we were targeting, our group of demographic that we wanted to reach, actually, right? That's kind of how ratings go. Yeah, whether it be, think of like radio on television, right? So we take that times our target population and the number of ads run, right? So we say number of ads run is, and we're measuring in a month, we ran that same ad 12 times. Right? Multiply all of that, and that gives us our impressions. Right? How many people that we care about saw that ad, basically? Out of all the potential people out there to see the ad. Another KPI, conversion rate, the percentage of the audience that has completed completed a desired action such as a click-through, right? So we say we want people to act, call to action, click on this, right? Click on this. Not just see it, but click. So if you say, hey, I typed in Google for some product, and on the first page, all these sponsored paid products came up. You did not click on each one of those, you clicked on one, right? So that would say that's what we want to measure. Yeah, you saw it. Like it's there, it's on the page, you saw it. But you didn't do anything about it. You went somewhere else, clicked on some other thing. Right? But here we want to know the click-through rate, conversion rate. The number of people converted or clicked divided by the audience size, number of people who viewed, times 100. We'll get a good number out of that. All right, return on ad spending, right? Measures the amount of revenue earned for every dollar spent on advertising. So that's kind of simple, right? We say, hey, revenue divided by advertising. Right? Increase of sales, right? How much you kind of taken in all together divided by how much you spent in advertising. Right, so different things. You can say, hey, you're having a presentation and a meeting at your job, and like, hey, you actually had some really good return on our ad spend. So maybe we should spend more. You say, if that's a really good number, we can kind of identify the more that we spend, this would be our expected return in revenue. It might make very simple sense. Like, hey, give it another $10 million, we might see an extra $30 million. We should expect $30 million in return for every $10 billion that we contribute to our ads. Here's another question. Hey, discuss the importance of establishing KPIs and using metrics to measure them. What decisions can be made from this information, right? I just gave you an example, but think of other things such as the conversion rate. Right? What can you do about that if you have a poor conversion rate? And think of even rating systems, right? What can you do to increase better ratings? Ratings is your target market versus all the people who saw it, right? Your target market who actually viewed it, did something about it. Right? And here really it's just views. I would say focus on, hey, conversion rate. What can you do with this information? All right, poor conversion rate. What now? What's the action to take place? What kind of execution, what kind of ideas do you come up with to resolve that? Give you a few minutes to talk with your groups. Right? How do you get more people to click? Simple. Think of it, even if you're an influencer, you're putting content out there. How do you get more people to click? They're not just clicking. Yeah, you could try different ads or different sort of video, reel, or something. But maybe that's not even that. There's something else. We have things like headlines, taglines, could you change those? People are just seeing very small amounts of information. Is it the images? When you type in Google, Google Images come up. Are your images not sufficient enough? Why are you not standing out? Maybe you're targeting the wrong audience. so you're saying change the communication, basically, right? We have communication out there, nobody responded to it, so change the communication. That would be, okay. Right.
Similar things, but also like maybe look at other companies, like what they have done that and do that steering band over where they go, like Target or just search market in general, or just do different trends and like not also do like false advertising and they'll kind of like spice the product, like give it as it is, but maybe like better your product or like don't try and like false advertise and then like people are gonna do like bad reviews on you and you'll get any business on it.
Okay. Like, hey, you know, take it as information of failure. You gotta change your product. You like, hey, people don't like what they see, right? Very simple information. Okay, here.
You said usually whenever you're looking for like a company or product, you like usually go to reviews, but like videos of actual people and their testimonies on one types of businesses, I feel like are more sustainable and people like to have kind of like a connection in a way. Than going off as like having a celebrity endorse you, but like having celebrity kind of like drinks Coca-Cola or like oh I want to be like them, so I'm gonna do the same thing.
Okay. So like sponsorship, celebrity sponsorship. Okay, over here.
You said that it's important to like get the metrics for conversion rates, if you diversify like what platforms you're using to send out ads, and you see that the ones sent out to Instagram and Facebook are outperforming the ones in Facebook or outperforming the ones on TikTok, then like let's say you're coming in $50 to one, $50 to the other, then if one's performing better, you should just set like okay 75, 25 now for Instagram and then to TikTok.
All right. Just say, hey, you know, it's channel dependent, right? The medium that you're using. More people respond on Facebook, less people respond on TikTok and Instagram, add more ad money to Facebook. But more importantly, it might give you information that you didn't know of, like, hey, you know what? Our target market is not on Instagram and TikTok. Very simple. Right? We thought that our target market was on Instagram and TikTok because that's who we know we're targeting. But now we know that our target market is on Facebook. Right? The demographic doesn't use those particular things or respond in the way that we thought that they would respond. Right? So you switch it up, put more money into the medium, which is more effective. All right, and next we get PR, public relations, right? Positive imaging, right, with the public. The result is considered publicity and is not paid for. So we say, hey, public relations is for publicity. Sometimes bad publicity is on purpose, right? If our objective is exposure or relevance. Now think about that. Like even celebrities come up with all types of crazy stuff. They make up stuff. They put it out there just so they can become relevant. Just to get you to talk about it. All the stuff that they put out is completely fake stuff. It's just something that you know, they think that people would have to chat about. So we say the result of public relations is publicity. Publicity can be used to bring awareness to an event. So we say, hey, PR involves not products and services specifically, they involve events, right? Splashing your name up on an event, a brand. What does that event represent? Something good, something about the environment, sustainability, a good cause, a charity, some award ceremony, right? Amount of volunteer hours the employees did in a time frame, that could be good PR. Like you show all your employees participating in some volunteer sort of thing, right? Shows that they're happy, etc. Puts you in a positive light. And many more positive stories the organization wants to share, right? So you can kind of say this more of intra-information, right? Information about what's inside the organization as opposed to outside. Publicity can also be used for damage control, right? So we say, hey, you get canceled because you didn't support some ideology or political thing, creates a crisis, or is a bad advertisement. People are really offended by it. Somebody read right, can impact the public view of the company in a negative way. So prices match, right? So good PR. You get some people, maybe some celebrities or notable people to talk about how good your product is, or show something that you're doing good in some other regard. Public relations is important, showing the public target market that the company's values align with those in the target market. So there's also competing space for who is the best company, who is doing the most good out of everyone competing in that market share, right? So we have like consumer social responsibility, corporate social responsibility for that matter, right? The public wields great power to either get behind a brand or product and drive sales, or the opposite, to the degree of boycott. And changes come very quickly to address angry customers. So we have some tools. One is we can use the press, right? We have to be on good terms with the press. And usually whoever has the best relationships with the largest media organizations kind of get the most positive images spread out to the most people, right? So you think you have a good relationship with CNN, Fox News, Time Warner, to that degree, you can reach tens or hundreds of millions of people. That would be a very good thing to have. So you want to maintain positive relationships with those in the media. It could be an editor, a reporter, right? Someone that you can rely on to speak for their media company to put the message out. We have things like public affairs, ways to influence public policy and engage with public officials. You work in a particular industry, and that particular industry is highly regulated by the federal government, state government, county government, city government. You may want to have good relationships with those politicians, with those public officials. You may want to be giving money to, donating money to the city or the state in some regard, so that you can influence those politicians who kind of align with you versus your competitors. Right? So that's good public affairs. So that they can change policy that's more in your favor as an organization. Next we have lobbying, right? Have you ever seen any lobbyists before in action? No? Yeah, you can go to Springfield and see lobbyists there. You can go down to City Hall here in Chicago, downtown Chicago. You go to the Capitol building, see lobbyists there too, if you see. Right? Lobbyists are usually paid by organizations to go and communicate directly with government officials, right? Having a voice, speaking to the senator, speaking to the congressman, speaking to the mayor about things that you would like done for your benefit. In some way, really, the lobbyists are highly influential because they're possibly going to return a favor of donating money to the individual's campaign. Right? So like a good extra, $1 million towards your campaign for your next re-election from my organization might get you elected. So maybe you should do things that my organization wants you to do. Right? And that's really what we see in politics. Think about it. As a politician, if you were a politician, your main objective is to get reelected, so that you can keep having that job and that role that has immense power and influence on people. You don't want to lose that. Right? So you'll literally do whatever you can to have the most advertising dollars when it comes time to be reelected. Right? The person has the most advertisements, get the most messages out, right? So they're not some anonymous person. So that's lobbying. Events. Supporting cause or highlighting a company, product, or brand by sponsoring or hosting events, as we said before. And then digital media or social media marketing, using online platforms to reach a larger audience in a shorter period. Right, advantages includes real-time communication, Facebook Live, IG Live, lower cost, and ability to make adjustments quickly, right? Alright, so yeah, hey, here's another discussion question. What instances have you recognized public relations in actions? Think of this organization, right? This is a pretty large organization. Pretty sure there's a lot of public relations going on. But maybe you can think of your own organization's headquarters, right? If that's the case. Hey, was the instance positive or negative? Did it involve a company, product, or brand? And how did it make you feel or respond? So think of just anything out there now, the whether, I would say a good example would just be Tesla, right? Big example. PR for Tesla. Bad PR for Elon Musk. Good PR. How is it impacting Tesla vehicles, right? And other things. How do you think it will consumers feel or make you feel, right? But I want you to give me an example of something other than, like, say, Tesla. So talk about your groups for a couple minutes, look back. I think probably the greatest recent example could be Yeezys and Kanye West, right? Yeah, think of anything that you, like, hey, I don't support that company anymore, I'm not buying their stuff. That made me feel bad, right? Or you're like, hey, I like what they're doing out there in the public, right? I like it, I'm gonna buy their stuff, makes me feel great. Have you ever canceled or boycotted a company because of some political ideology? Stance? I said, you know, it kind of happens at a lot of progressive universities and colleges. You don't see it as much, I would say, maybe with, I would say more kind of conservative universities, colleges. This one being an example of like a, where you see like a lot of more political protests or protesting, boycotting. You don't see it as much as on this campus, right? As opposed to other like progressive universities. Even when it comes to products, so just things like that. Okay, in the back.
You kind of said Starbucks. Well, there was two. So the negative one, kind of looking for when they went back Starbucks for sports outside, I believe it was. A lot of people took action for that. But then also the positive part of it, well, a different part of it was they got people back by doing the
So there are good messages on the cups?
Yeah, like, do they kind of write like something like cute on it, or do they draw a picture and everything?
Oh, like handwritten?
Yeah, like all of it, yeah.
Gotcha, okay. Okay, cool. Starbucks. Another one with Starbucks, you know, kind of bad PR, honestly, which kind of, I know drives a lot of people away. Like Starbucks wants you to buy something, like what they're gonna tell you to leave. Right? Like remember, before Starbucks, like a place you could just go and open your laptop and chill for like 3 hours, right? But they changed that policy. And that's like, leaves a bad taste in people. People are like, hey, I'm gonna buy something. Maybe not right now, today I'm in a rush, right? In this situation. I don't punish me for this. Okay. In the front.
One company that has like a positive impact is like Patagonia, where they donate like a percentage of every sale to like wildlife preservation. Some people feel good about what they're buying.
Yeah, like it makes sense. People who buy Patagonia are outdoorsy nature lovers, right? People who love nature, so like that is good PR for us to give back to nature with your purchase. Right? With your purchase, you're not getting product, but you're also helping your beliefs, you're helping nature. Here.
We were thinking about our brand that we're doing, and they recently did like a trip to India, to schools and stuff, and that is like a part of like the brand is like a charity that they are doing, but it's also like a really good luck for the brand. So it's like a positive like impact that it shows like the charitable use of the brand.
Yeah, it shows that the brand it's going global, right? That the brand is beyond Chicago and this area, it's, you know, in other places around the world. What about over here?
We were talking about Apple, like how they do their product launches is like a big part of their public relations, because you can get a room full of thousands of people for a keynote speaker to introduce the new AirPods or whatever, and it creates not only a sense of like unity and hype for the product, but it really will impact social media, because everyone in there is, you know, recording stuff. So it's kind of a way that they can take one event and impact people across many platforms.
Yeah, like, hey, Apple might reach this in other communities that they didn't think that they could, right? Based on who's presenting a certain product, Apple Watch or something. Okay, great. Advantages, increasing brand credibility. Consumers value the opinion of objective news and media sources, increasing sales of leads. PR brings awareness to those unfamiliar with the company's product, as we stated. Positive brand image and cost effectiveness, right? It's kind of an expensive way to raise funds for a cause. Some disadvantages. You don't have direct control, right? Once it's out there in the webosphere, the media got a hold to it. They can manipulate it, construe it, edit it, snippets. You really didn't say that, but you did say that. Right? It can go anywhere. Lack of guaranteed results, right? Ultimately, it's the decision of the media organizations whether to push a story or press release. So think about this too, like at some point, the media becomes like the mafia or something like that. Because now, if a certain media source supports you and they have huge influence, you kind of have to do their bidding, right, according to their audience. So now, if you think of right, we got conservatives and liberals in the United States primarily. So if you start to be advertised on a conservative platform, you automatically discontinue the ability to advertise on the liberal because you just shut it off. Right? The consumers are like, no, you're clearly a conservative company now, right? In the mindsets of the public, right? So sometimes it can backfire because then you kind of pigeonhole yourself, right? We think of like Tesla, for example. Teslas are mostly purchased by in the political sphere? Liberals, Democrats, right? Because Tesla is viewed or perceived as like, hey, we're getting away from gasoline and carbon emissions and yada yada yada. This is the future. This is progressive. This is innovative, and it's more eco-friendly. Yada yada yada. Right? And now you say, well, guess what, Elon Musk hasn't shut his mouth. So now the same people who supported Tesla, are like, no, down with Tesla, right? Because Elon Musk just won't shut up, or he doesn't align with our views, right? CEO, spokesperson for Tesla doesn't align with our views. So yeah, you get yourself into, you lose control, basically, at some point, depending on what it is going on in the public at that time. Difficulty of evaluating effectiveness, right? The impact on the consumer is hard to determine, right? We say, other things, we get really good metrics, these kind of a little bit more difficult to determine how the public views you altogether. All right, and lastly, this will be our last discussion question, then we get out of here. Hey, consider ways in which an organization can build on the advantage of PR. Consider ways in which an organization could work on counteracting the advantages of public relations. So think of some ideas. Do you think like, hey, is it stay away from politics altogether or political debates as an organization? Like, no, stay away from that. Or you're like, hey, really truly align yourself with what you believe in as an organization in terms of what the public perceives. Think of some things that you could think could be an advantage for good PR, right? In some ways you can counteract the disadvantages. I'll give you a few minutes with your groups on that. Okay, how we get here?
One thing we said for how you can counteract, like, the negatives of it. One thing we thought of was, like, when something like that, PR comes out, there's always somebody at fault. So they can, like, fire whoever that person was and, like, kind of disassociate them from the brand. Kind of, like, blame it on that person. Like that.
Yeah, you say, hey, one way to counteract this, great, get the scapegoat. You say, hey, you're not taking the whole company down with us. We'll put out that we fired you, we punished you, you receive some sort of punishment to some regard so that we can show the public that we're serious, right? That we care about what you think. Right? We do not disregard what it is, how you think it is about important issues. All right, so scapegoat.
So a way that, kind of both is if like a company, like I've heard of it right now, like the Ice Bucket Challenge, USC one for fine. A company could like donate
right? Ice Bucket Challenge, donate some money, dealing with like ALS, and stuff like that, right?
Mental.
Yeah, and have like the public faces of the company participate, right? A lot of people talk about it, get exposure, and it seems like, hey, you guys aren't so bad as we thought. Okay, so just putting out press releases, right? Press release is a statement, like, hey, we do not condone yada, 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 quote, unquote, from some random CEO of the company or something like that, right? You're like, hey, that might be good, we don't wanna put a face to it, we wanna put a message out, just some communication. We think it'll blow over, but we just wanna do a few positive steps, so we'll put out a quote out there, and so hopefully it goes away. We're not as bad as we thought. Okay, in the back?
For this type of like coalitions, like TikTok trends, like they're using like a sound or you're using like a public lights, but they can during the public lights, not push all those like that. And then he also said it's like that the disadvantages, basically just keep pushing your brand and your products out, but like not like liking anything on social media, even like you like one thing to give it a long way by someone. Just like try to kind of change that, but also if something does happen, like, you know, address it, come with an apology, or like how they send a statement, like that, just to clear that.
You say, hey, one thing, honestly, you're like, hey, you know what? Human memory is not that strong, was very, salacious, or talked about now will utterly be forgotten in 2 weeks. No one even will remember this story, so let's totally disregard it. Let's not like anything, let's not even put a comment, a quote, let's not apologize, let's not do nothing. Let's just let people forget, and we'll just keep promoting our products like we normally do, okay? Just keep it running. Sometimes that is a good approach, because you really think things are really bad, honestly, by the news cycle is so quick, by the time you wanna argue about something that you think is important, we're already talking about something else, right? So sometimes that is a really good strategy, okay? Yeah, just let it go. Just keep your mouth closed. All right, everyone, that's it for today. We will pick up our presentations on Tuesday.